Nathan Thurlow sucht verzweifelt nach Freude und Liebe, findet aber lange nur Leere und Traurigkeit, bis ihn ein alter Freund besucht.
15 Jahre lang reist Nathan Thurlow durch Südostasien. Er sucht nach etwas, das er nicht kennt. Einen Sinn, die Liebe, das Glück. Eigentlich will er auf einem Esel bis in den Himalaya pilgern und erleuchtet werden. Doch es kommt anders. Heute ist er mein Studiogast. Welcome in the studio, Nathan.
Thank you.
Imagine you're on a Vespa, you are in Thailand, on top of a mountain. What comes next?
Yeah, this actually happened at one point. I was on top of the mountain with a motorbike, and I was so desperately seeking this love and this feeling of enlightenment. And through all the beliefs that I was following at the time, I had the idea to start going down the mountain on the motorbike and hold onto the motorbike with my legs and put the motorbike into neutral and put my arms out in the air like this and travel around lots of curves all the way down the mountain.
So you drove 15, 20 kilometers per hour just without hands?
Yeah, probably a lot faster without hands around the corners, using my balance to steer the motorbike.
How long did it take?
To get to the bottom of the mountain, maybe 20 minutes.
Without hands on the handlebars?
Yeah.
So why did you do that? You said you were desperately searching for what?
I was just desperately searching this feeling of being alive, of being complete. At the time, I was following the Buddhist ideas of enlightenment, of this
searching for self, or how would you call it?
This where the heart of it is to dissolve my sense of self. I thought that this was just another way that I could do this, and
to dissolve
my sense of self, to become egoless, to lose any attachment for life, and hope that would give me enlightenment, hope that would give me the feeling that I was so desperately seeking. And at this point, there was a carelessness inside me that I just didn't mind if I lived or if I died.
You also started with yoga for several years until you exercised yoga for 2 to 3 hours a day. What were your skills? What were you exercising? Can you talk about your yoga?
In my searching with yoga, I remember times when it was even 10 hours of yoga and meditation, and it involved a lot of the common exercises. One of the most common is salute to the sun, a series of exercises, stretching up, stretching down, backwards, forwards. I then became more interested in things like headstands and crossing my legs while upside down. And
how long did you could headstand?
There were times when I could do this for up to half an hour. And
the legs crossed?
Yeah, there was a saying I heard that if you did this long enough, you would experience timelessness, and so I thought it's worth trying, and I spent quite a lot of time on my head.
So on your journey through Southeast Asia, you were in some places known as Nathan Lovejoy. So did you find this love, so that someone called you, or some people called you Nathan Lovejoy? How did you get the name?
Yeah. So in the midst of my travels around Southeast Asia, I would often come back to Australia for periods and visit festivals and try to show off to the world how amazing and enlightening I was becoming. And
what was the festival? Hippie festivals, rock and roll, or whatever?
I would go to the most extreme hippie festivals and the most extreme techno festivals. And it was during this time. It was first given to me from a friend who I was practicing yoga with, and he saw me at one of these festivals putting on a really good show. That I was sharing free chai tea in the morning and making breakfast for everyone that came, and singing love songs.
Along your tent and...
Yeah, outside and with my tent with lots of colourful flags and cushions on the ground, and it was a friend that gave me this name, Nathan Lovejoy, and he started talking about me as Nathan Lovejoy, and this... In the hippie scene in Australia along the East Coast, word spreads quickly that my name was Nathan Lovejoy. And then when I started the travels more, it just followed me.
Yeah.
And I think for a while.
So what did you do the whole day long when you said you were arranged everything very colorful? What did you do? Give you laugh and joy?
I would wake up in the morning and do my yoga, always in a place where people could see me. Although I was trying to become egoless, I always wanted attention from the world. So I would do my yoga for a couple hours and stand on my head. As part of that, I would sit
in front of the people?
Often in front of people, yeah. I would sit cross-legged for a really long time without moving, for sometimes 1 hour or 2 hours, and then make this food and sing songs and have my campsite always welcome and open to people. And I was following this New Age truth. They say that the more you give, the more you get. And so much out of the New Age is just stolen from the Bible, and this was one that was stolen. The more you give, the more you get. So I would just give as much as I could, and it looked good while I was out.
So you took your last money, you bought vegetables,
yeah.
And then you just gave it to people?
Yeah, often I would spend the last $100 that I have and just share with everyone. I wouldn't actually feel good going to a festival where I couldn't share too much, because that was actually my way to get some feeling from the festival.
Did you get something back from the people? Because you said sex, drugs and rock and roll, so you took drugs, you got sex or whatever?
Yeah, there was times where I would get a lot of positive feedback from people. That was a lot, but often I wanted more, and I did want attention from women. I did want one-night stands, and there were times that this happened, and there were times that I would offer people a free chai tea, and they will give me a free joint, and I would smoke joints. Or I was following this motto that's really promoted in the New Age world of just say yes to life, yes to everything. And so I would go to these festivals and I would say yes to everything. And what is often offered at festivals is sex, drugs, rock and roll. And this happened, and when I would get back home, I would feel completely lost and broken and empty beyond words.
What happened inside of you when you were looking at all these actions?
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember in my travels, I remember a beautiful saying that I heard where it says, "There are no strangers, only friends you haven't met yet." So this helped me for so long fill a void of friendships that weren't really there, friendships that weren't really deep, friendships that I guess were quite superficial. I could go up, I had a confidence that I just made up, that I'd go up to anyone in a restaurant and say, "Hi, I'm Nathan, how you going? Let's be friends." And it came that I knew hundreds of people, and on my Facebook profile there were thousands of friends and from all over the world, and I thought this was what friends are, just knowing heaps of people. But when I was alone, the quietness, in the quiet space, I realized that I was so lonely, and my friendships weren't real friendships, in the sense that if I was going through something difficult, rather than going to a friend, I would just go into a quiet corner and try to get through it myself, because I wasn't confident to show people the other side of Nathan Lovejoy.
Okay, so the internal Nathan Lovejoy.
Yeah.
But when you were 29, there was a very special relationship to wonderful young women. You became a father. What happened? At the moment when you realized, I'm going to be a father, there's going to be a little boy who will be born?
Well, I have to take one little step back to the moment I found out that the mother of my child was pregnant. And to say that the extreme crazy life I was living for so long, there was always this idea in the back of my mind that the moment I become a father will be the moment that I will try to incorporate a bit more of an integrated way of living, where I could provide more of a foundation, a responsibility for my child, exactly. But I remember when this came, when the message of the pregnancy came, I saw I actually didn't know how to come into the world. From my years of being so out of the system, like consciously practicing how to be anything other than normal life.
You could flee again. You could go on another journey.
Yeah.
You could go away.
Exactly. I was always able to run away, but in this moment, it was the first moment I realized I can't run away from difficult situations anymore, but I don't actually know how to be a good father. I don't know how to be a good partner. I don't know how to live in Germany. At the time, I was already going through...
Because she was a German.
She was German. She wanted to live in Germany. She wanted to stay for years, and I was already suffering from depression, insomnia. I was self-medicating with the use of marijuana. I was trying to stay healthy with my yoga. I was mixing everything up, and I went into absolute despair at that moment of the pregnancy, and tried to keep going through the pregnancy, and I remember that it was difficult really from the very beginning.
Desperate. You were in a deep depression, right?
Yeah, deep depression, that I found ways to just stay on top of it, but it was often at the cost of me not being very nice to the mother of my child. And yeah, we had the birth in Australia, then we were back to Germany, we were a bit back and forward, and then I was having to be full-time single parent for my son while his mother was finishing her study. And I had no idea that I was loved, and it was near impossible for me to love him the way that I knew I had to love him, and it was really hard.
Nathan
actually.
loved or didn't know how to love his boy, his son.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
What happened then? Because you said you were in a depression. How did you get out of it?
Well, so that's then if we skip forward, and there's after 3 years, the mother of my child left the relationship, and at this point, the depression was indescribable. The despair and the hopelessness was indescribable.
Because she would take the son back to Germany and you would stay in Australia, or?
Yeah, she wanted to go back to Germany. Even if she stayed in Australia, I didn't know how to get through this pain of not being able to give my son, the happy mother-father together thing, and not even knowing how to live through it myself, and the pain, knowing that I couldn't just run off again to Southeast Asia. I couldn't just hide in a cave and get enlightened. I couldn't, even of course the thought of suicide crossed my mind. The thought of killing myself was more painful. Realizing the pain it would cause him was more painful than the idea of suicide. It was like there's no options here. And I knew I couldn't go on with this emptiness anymore. And I knew nothing in the world would satisfy this.
Except someone else would come from the outside and change something.
Yeah, and at this moment, my friend Steve and his wife and his daughter came. And Steve I had met 15 years ago at a techno festival. He was on drugs, and we would smoke joints and talk about how amazing we could make life. It's often in the New Age world talking about the love rather than walking in it. But I remember seeing him, and I remember seeing that his life was completely transformed. He was no longer addicted to sex, drugs, rock and roll. He was no longer even seeking any
enlightenment or
self-enlightenment and attention from others. He just had this heart that wanted to love. And he came and he laid his hands on me, and he just started praying, and he prayed in Jesus' name for a new heart, and he prayed God's loving forgiveness over me, over the situation. During this prayer, I was feeling a spark of life coming into my heart, that I hadn't experienced since I was a little kid. And I could just see it was coming out of love. And I thought, I've just got to try this out. I've just got to open up and try out this God, try out Jesus.
Steve has found this kind of love, this love?
Yeah, Steve's life was completely transformed by Jesus. Completely transformed, that the relationship with his wife was made new. The relationship with his parents, with his family, with his friends was made new. That there was this love inside him that just wanted to love. And yeah, I thought I should let him pray for me.
What happened afterwards, after the prayer?
Well, still in the middle of this prayer, I remember seeing God showing me why the relationship didn't work with the mother of my child. I remember seeing in this prayer the goodness of marriage, and that God is actually unconditional love, and this love needs to stay in the center of a relationship, of a marriage, for it to work. He started at one point praying for Claire and praying for forgiveness for her, and I remember being like, no, don't pray for her, she's the one that made me feel this bad way. But then I was like, no, that's a lie, and I started praying for her too, and I just felt this love start coming over me, and I was already filled with this hope. I was like, wow, this Christian thing really is about love, and unconditional love. But I remember also the way he prayed was this prayer of so much faith, so much love, and so much positivity. And I liked the way he prayed. So I said to God, all right, I'm gonna try this out, and I'm gonna pray every day a little thank you prayer. And so for the next month, I prayed this thank you prayer of like, thank you, God, that you woke me up.
The whole day long?
No, just in the morning. It was
okay.
That short. Like, oh, thank you, God, that my life is well. It was just the beginning of me using God's name, and that's as far as I could go with it. It was my testing period, I remember. But I remember, although there was no big experience the next day, I remember looking back after every week, and I noticed that my extreme ups and downs were going away, and that there was this slight increase in my well-being, in hope, in my heart. And I remember more every day thinking, yeah, this is working, and this hope of, oh, so the mother of my child's going to come back. But then something huge happened 1 month later. And as I was getting filled up with this hope, I remember going after 1 month to have dinner with the mother of my child.
Because you hoped you come together.
Yeah, I was sure that we were going to get back together. And I remember her during this evening, she was getting very angry at me. She wanted to go back to Germany. And I still had a bit of a fear of going back to Germany. I'm like, no, let's just go slow. And she's starting to yell and scream at me that she feels like she's in a prison. She feels like I'm the worst person in the world. And she hates me. And during this, as she's screaming at me, in the end, she says, I've got a boyfriend. And at this point, I feel this pain and this fear fall upon me that was so strong, and I freaked out. But it was the first time in my life that I couldn't react. I couldn't start getting angry at her. Yeah. I couldn't yell at her. I couldn't blame her. And I saw that this pain and this fear was the one thing that was chasing after me my whole life, that I was trying to run away from, that I was trying to search things in the world to avoid this pain and this fear. And yeah, Christian terms, we would call it the anger with God. And I remember hopping in the car and going home, and just my anger was building up until I got home and I lay in bed and I just gave it all to God in a really ugly surrender.
When you lay in your bed and you yelled at God, how did he react?
Yeah.
Or what did you expect it? How should he react?
Yeah, so as I was yelling at God, you suck, I give up, I tried the Christian thing, there was this amazing thing that was happening. There was this pain and this fear in me still, but there was this presence coming into the room that was far greater than the pain and the fear that I was experiencing. So this presence coming over me, at the beginning it was absolutely terrifying, and as I started to just give myself to God more, what happened was I noticed something had happened inside me, that the pain and the fear was gone. It was completely gone. And that this presence that was coming over me it was this love and this peace that I can't describe. And I remember I was like, whoa, God, this is the one thing that I was looking for my whole life. In all of my desperate, destructive travels, in all of my ways that ended up hurting others, this is the love that I was looking for. And as I saw that, at the time I hadn't read much of the Bible, but I knew it was written in the Bible, God is love. And at that point, as I'm experiencing God's love, so indescribable, this moment, I was like, my surrender to God was like, God, you are so beautiful. You are that one thing I'm looking for. There's nothing I want more in the world than to live your love in the world. And I gave my heart to God completely, my life to God. And I remember asking him, God, how do I live this love in the world? I know I can't live it by my own strength. I tried that my whole 30-something years, and I always got needy and greedy and selfish, and it always got messy. And I wasn't ready to become a Christian, and I remember looking in my mind through every spiritual master, guru, teacher, inspiring person I ever met, and no one came close to this love that I'm experiencing, until at the end my eyes just rest upon Jesus. I see him there on the cross. It wasn't this amazing visual experience. I just knew he was there on the cross, and he spoke these words, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." And as I realized this, I was like, wow, it's you, Jesus. You're God. You're the perfect visible image of the invisible God. This experience of God and love, it was so big. I remember at the time, if I had to sum up all of my amazing experiences that I had through yoga, spiritual, new age, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all the good experiences, it was a ball this big.
Yeah.
The bad experiences was a ball this big. And what I'm experiencing of God's love in this moment is a goodness that's this big.
So you found this kind of love and happiness you were looking for the whole life.
Yeah.
In this moment when you were in your
this
room,
moment, yeah.
when you're laying in your bed.
Yeah, I found it, and he found me, and I realized he was chasing after me my whole life. There was this hope that came alive in my heart in this moment, not just for me, but for the whole of humanity, because I knew that this was no special experience just for me. This was his love and his heart for everyone, that he just loves them so much, and he can turn any situation into something beautiful. And
what happened to Nathan Lovejoy this night? Is there still something of Nathan Lovejoy alive?
In that night, I realized, I don't have to be Nathan Lovejoy. I don't have to be anyone other than just Nathan's enough for me. I don't have to try anymore. You know, my whole life was trying to do something to be loved. And in this moment, it was like, whoa, no more trying. I just have to believe. And there was a series of questions that came to me, like what to do with my son, what to do with his mother, and what to do with my life in Germany, whereas I knew he said, be a good father.
Yes.
And I knew for the first time in my life that I could be a good father, because I knew that I was loved from God, from the creator of the universe. Yeah. I knew I could be a good father. I was like, easy, God, done it. The next was like, give his mother back to God. She was never mine.
And right now you're in Germany. You are here, not in Australia. So it means she came back to Germany.
Yeah.
She took the son with her, and you followed her, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe the secret of the love you have found?
Describing the secret of the love that I've found, it's such a good question, and it's such a simple answer. It's just that it's a really simple gospel. And making a little space in our heart, particularly our heart more than our head, helps in receiving this truth that the creator of the universe loves us this much, that he sent his only son to die for us. I don't always understand that in my head, but since that very first moment that I keep opening my heart up to receive this truth and keep believing in faith and keep walking and letting the truth of who and how he sees me define me, and not the world around me and not my situation and even not my feelings of how I feel God's love, but just the truth, and walk it.
That's the secret. Thank you. Thank you, Nathan, that you have been here today. It was a pleasure to talk to you and to listen to your story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you also.
Die wahre Liebe ist bedingungslos und es gibt sie nur bei Gott. Nathan Thurlow durfte das erfahren. Haben Sie schon nach dieser bedingungslosen Liebe gesucht und sie noch nicht gefunden? Dann fragen Sie Gott, beten Sie. Und falls Sie nicht genau wissen wie, dann schreiben Sie uns. Wir helfen Ihnen gerne. Mehr Geschichten über Gottes Liebe gibt es in unserer Mediathek oder auf unserem YouTube-Kanal. Bis zum nächsten Mal.
Wenn Sie Fragen zur Sendung haben, dann können Sie sich gerne bei uns melden. Sie erreichen uns telefonisch unter 06441 957 14 14 oder per Mail an menschgott@erf.de.